Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. We are here for a little sidestep, a little extra bit of content for you. I've been itching to do one, so has Curtis, and we've been itching to get this man on the podcast. It's Dagan from the US of A. Dagan, I don't actually know where you're based, mate. Where are you based?
I am in sunny Virginia today.
Okay, cool. And have you lived there all your life, or?
I have. I'm
Yeah.
not a world traveler at all. So yeah, based in Virginia, went away to school in North Carolina, and then moved back here after college.
Oh, amazing stuff. And we are also here with Curtis' friend. How are you, my
You
friend?
you are joined by the furniture. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
doing good. Very excited for this. We've been trying for a while to get our good friend Dagan on, and we finally managed to get it going. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, we are all going to hear about how Dagan became a fan of Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club all the way from the US of A. We've got a lot of USA fans, and it's amazing to hear their stories. I know there's one more USA fan that we're looking to talk to towards the end of this season as well, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But until then, we are going to hear all about Dagan's story. So, Dagan, one simple question, mate. Why Brighton and Hove Albion?
Yeah, why?
So I'll try to be as brief as possible. Was away at the beach with a couple of friends, one a City fan and one a Chelsea fan. Forgive them both. But they said, you've got to pick a team. You got to pick a Premier League team. We're all avid sports fans of many different sports. And they said it's time. So I had some spare time at the beach. I was like, you know what? All right, just pause. Let me do some homework. It just so happened that the game that was on at the time, as they were pushing me, was the first, I think, televised game of the season, which was Brighton at Manchester United. And so as they were pushing me, I was getting to witness this team playing a style of football that I thought was pretty attractive from the get-go. So that sort of planted a seed, and then the sort of historic win helped. Started my research process, narrowed it from 13 teams. So I excluded right away the Big Six and Newcastle, sort of presuming them to be the seventh in that big group. So started with those 13, dwindled it down to a top 7, and then a final 3. I can report that alongside Brighton in the final 3 were Leeds and Leicester. Leeds had a lot of attractive factors. Sort of the American connections were sort of appealing, but I also saw like that's probably going to be a really popular pick with many folks in the States. And I shied away from them. In part, the fans had a less than maybe pleasant reputation. And so that steered me away from Leeds a little bit. And then Leicester sort of had their moment. They had their big run. And so I talked with some of my friends about the different teams I was considering. But the thing that I came to about Brighton that really struck me was Tony Bloom. And the sort of, this was his team. I think every sports fan thinks like, man, if I had all the money to buy this team, like that would be the greatest thing in the world, right? Everyone would want to do that. And the fact that he is a poker player, that he approaches his work with the team, I think in the same way that he approaches poker and sort of everything else with sort of an analytic eye. And he's really looking at what does the math tell me here? I have an appreciation for that, even though in my life I'm not a mathematician. I have an appreciation for poker. I played a lot of poker when that craze was hitting the States, and just thought this guy has something special, something different. And it looked like Brighton was a team that was built for success in a sustainable way. Not just like, oh, they're going to be good this year. And I really wanted to choose a team that I thought, one, would stay up, right? I wanted a team that would stay up because I, wasn't sure how much access I would have to watching games otherwise, although it looks like a lot of the lower league games are on ESPN Plus now. So I can see some of those. But yeah, I mean, those were the real driving factors. The attractive brand of football. I was enamored with Graham Potter and his sort of tactical adjustments. Though frightened a little bit by the absence of goal scoring at times. Happy to see Zerbi ball come in and change that. But really, it was Tony Bloom was the big deciding factor. And I love going to the beach. And I thought if I was ever going to visit someplace in the UK, where would it be? And a southern beach sounded pretty attractive. So I was like, that was sort of the final piece. And it's a beautiful stadium too. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a really good answer, actually. Like, most people would be like, I like the color of the shirt, so that's why I picked the club. But no, that's a really good answer. I think a lot of people, even still, quite sleep on Tony Bloom and what he's done for the club, and how much passion he has for us and wants us to get to the highest possible point. And it's just fantastic to hear him talk about the club and where he wants to take us. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's super interesting to see exactly how much research you did put into it. Because as Kurt said, normally it's like, oh, I like their badge, so I'm going to support them.
I like birds, so
Yeah, or like it's based on a really super famous player or this, that, and the other. So it's amazing to hear that it's because of the main one of the main reasons. Well, I would say the main reason as to why we're doing so well in the Premier League. Now, Dagan, I don't know how much you've looked at our past, but I'm going to ask you about football shirts. Now, I love football shirts. I counted my football shirt collection in the week, and I
They're
was
all behind
surprised.
him.
Yeah, I was surprised by the number. 70 football shirts in total. So as you can tell, I absolutely adore them. Is there a favorite Brighton shirt that you have?
It's a great question. So I think I'm up to 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 now. After one certain member of the podcast was so kind as to send me my first shirt. Thank you, Curtis. That was very kind. That's the green and black striped kit from, is it 11? Is that the right year? Just a beauty. So that one is my first and will always be near and dear. And I think it is well received among sort of the sort of top 10 favorites as I've looked at those lists out there. I really like the Hyper Turk as a color. I know that's and I think perhaps my bias is showing as a new fan. There's also a light blue, and I really like the keeper shirts, and it's a light blue keeper shirt, and the year escapes me. Gosh, I wish I had it in my head. But I have tried to look for it online and not found one. But I just really like the look of that keeper shirt. I know that doesn't really count as a.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, because I'm starting to collect the keeper shirts.
Yeah.
And because I remember you sent me that. It was a very specific one. It was like a dark blue one, with gold on it, and it had the Coca-Cola thing.
Yeah.
And you found me that one. And that's my favorite kit that I have of theirs.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and I know the one you're talking about, but I'm not sure what year or anything it's from. So
yeah, the goalkeeper shirts they 100% count. Like we've had some beautiful goalkeeper shirts. There's one that we had a good maybe 12, 13 years ago that had the Spider-Man logo on it, which is just bloody awesome. And yeah, I love them because goalkeeper shirts you can be a bit more wacky with them. And in recent years we haven't been. There's been basic, boring Nike templates, but especially of the Araya era, there's some wacky ones in there, so they're definitely worth looking for.
I also really like the Phoenix Brewery era of shirts. The mascot of my school is the Phoenix, and so Phoenix Brewery is appealing.
Amazing. And that was a super successful time in the club's history as well. I think we got relegated, but we also made the FA Cup final in that era. So that's
that was the Manchester
shout.
United game, wasn't it, as well? That one,
It
right?
It was.
So this next game, Joe, could be something. I don't want to.
Well, I was
your redemption.
I was on an app that we're associated with. I don't know if my internet's going bad at the moment, guys. I'm really sorry if it is. But I was on an app called Parlay that we're sort of partnered with, and I was chatting to the guys, and I was saying we've actually got we're getting carried away with the excitement of the FA Cup semi-final. We've got so many games beforehand, and I really hope that the players are also focusing on these games that we've got coming up, because we've got 3 games in 1 week. So we've got Brentford, Bournemouth, and then Spurs all in the space of 7 days. And that's going to be a super, super tough period. And probably...
Incidentally, I'm only worried
Sorry, go
about
on,
one of
Kurt.
those games. I'm only worried about one of those games, and that's actually the Brentford game, surprisingly, because I don't know. I feel like we can get points from the other two. It's just the Brentford one. It's always a really really tricky game. We're always really cagey, and they're floating around that same spot that we are, and they're fighting for the same thing. So there's a lot of fire underneath them as well. So we've got to be wary.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, Dagan, that hasn't been tainted by Brighton and Albion's shortcomings in years gone by, do you keep a rather positive outlook on games coming up? Because I try to be optimistic. Curtis is our resident optimistic person. We've got Aaron and Tom who like to look at things a bit more realistically. But yeah, do you see things from a positive perspective most of the time?
Well, I'll return first to sort of the first half of your previous question, which leads me to where I am with this question. I'm so humbled to have been welcomed by fans of the club, because it's just been tremendous. The kindness, the sharing of different resources to read about the history of the team and the year spent without a home, and sort of the rise from 4 leagues below to where we are now. It's an inspiring story. I can't wait for this documentary that keeps being talked about to come out, as I'm sure so many fans are eagerly waiting as well. But again, I chose Brighton because I thought there was a very upward trajectory. I was all but sure to start the year that we would finish in the top half, and that was met with some scrutiny. And very quickly, when we were in 4th, I was like, well, why couldn't we maintain this? And sort of the refrain was, nothing matters until Boxing Day. Don't pay attention to the standings. I was like, well, this seems to be a hearty sample size. Even 10 games in is a significant sample size. And so I was just like, well, why couldn't we finish there? It's like, well, these big teams, they're going to get better. And here we are. I started running some numbers. I don't know if you guys have seen me send those out, but like 5th and 6th are very, very realistic. And if we flip this Brentford result from the first time, I really do think like the Brentford and Tottenham games, if we win those 2 games, if we get 3 points from those 2 and beat Bournemouth, we get those 9 points. We're in the driver's seat for 4th at that point. So I have been and continue to be optimistic about our chances. I do think Tony and Brentford are a potential bogey team, I guess, as you guys say. That sort of physical striker seems to be the thing that can get in our way. And that's, Mitrovic, Tony, and even Kane with his sort of, just nose for the ball. Like those 3 guys worry me. It's like if we could take their goals away, I think we'll win in the case of Tony and Kane. But that's easier said than done.
Yeah, you raised a really good point there. You say really important to beat Brentford and Tottenham. Curtis, would you be happy? Let's say I'm talking to you after the Tottenham game. We've beaten Brentford, we've lost to Bournemouth, and we've beaten Tottenham. I know a lot of fans would be saying, "Oh, it's a massive missed opportunity that we should have beat Bournemouth because of how they are." But let's not be silly about this. They are a team at the bottom of the league fighting for their lives. It's away from home, so it's not unrealistic to expect that might be a banana skin. So let's say we beat Brentford, lose to Bournemouth, beat Tottenham. Are you happy with that?
Well, I think every team has that chance of being that banana skin. So we have to be careful in every game that we play. I mean, I'd rather not lose to anyone, but we have to be quite realistic. That we're not going to beat everybody, and we're not always going to have great games, and there's always going to be potential slip-ups, as I said. So, I mean, I'll take as many points as I can out of these games, however they come. Doesn't have to be pretty, but I know Zerbi commands perfection. So, and if he doesn't get it, he's going to tell them about it. So, I mean, I want to get 9 points. I want to get 9 points out of these 3 games. But if that's how it goes, Joe, then that's how it goes. We just have to accept it.
Very true. And Dagan, if those 9 points are succeeded and we do get them, do you think we're on for an unbelievably exciting end to the season? I feel like these 3 games are going to set the tone for the rest of the season. So how important is it that these 3 games are positive for us?
I think mathematically it's hugely important first. And to your point, I think if we had to drop one, Bournemouth is the game to drop just because it doesn't help those other 2 teams in the way that dropping the points to Brentford or to Tottenham would. What I would say that there are 2 worries I have, right? If we do win the 3, the pressure becomes imminently real that we are sort of in the driver's seat for that 4th Champions League slot. And so, it's an unprecedented level of pressure for the team, right? I mean, probably akin to the pressure one might feel at, the potential to go down or go up. But this is a different kind of going up that the team would be facing. But at the same time, emboldened, right? The vision is real. Like, we actually could do this. But that the no one believes in us mantra becomes harder to maintain at the point at which you're sort of sitting in the driver's seat. But hopefully we could do it. And I think the second piece that obviously becomes an issue as our games can increasingly get rescheduled is just the depth. The Sarmiento injury is concerning to me. He's sort of been a really inspiring player coming off the bench, and I worry about his absence and sort of that fusion of goal scoring possibilities. I was watching a montage of some highlights the other day and couldn't help but notice in maybe 3 of the most beautiful buildups of the season, he was an integral part of those, even though his minutes haven't been huge. And so, I think that loss we may not notice it until late April when we have that second tight run of games. But again, what we've seen is someone steps up. Maybe it'll be Enciso, maybe it'll be someone else. So I'll remain optimistic.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe, I have a question for you then, because you've been asking us questions.
Oh no!
So
I wasn't prepared for this.
Well, strap yourself in, get ready for this. Okay, it's the end of the season, right? It's the end of the season, and we don't make a cup competition. Is that season a failure for you?
What a question. Yes, it is. I think because of how much we've hyped it up as fans and how much the players are talking about it now, we know that that's their goal. And if Roberto De Zerbi is disappointed, if the players are disappointed, then so am I. I think it's not unrealistic for us to be like last season. Towards the end of the season, we were like all really excited. Oh, we could possibly get Europe if results go our way, if we carry on this way, and we didn't. We fell short, but that was okay because that wasn't our goal. The players have made it public. Roberto De Zerbi has made it public that is our ultimate goal, and we've got 2 opportunities to do it. I stood by the fact that I would rather play Manchester United in the FA Cup semi-final. If we had Fulham, I would have been more worried. And I know that's crazy saying that, but we've beaten Man United this season. Fulham have proven twice this season that they are unbelievably tough to play, especially when they do their stupid little play acting, which was disgraceful at the Amex. But we've got 2 chances to make Europe, and I know it'll be Man City in the final probably. But imagine a Brighton-Sheffield United final. That would just be something to behold for decades. And honestly, I'm worried whoever we play, if we get to the final, I'm worried. Even if we did come up against Sheffield United.
Historically, I mean, say if it was just Man City in the final, historically we played pretty well against these big teams. And I would, give us a shout of getting something out of that. It's not a game that concerns me. I mean, truthfully, and this is not me just being optimistic, Curtis. That this is just sort of. I don't tend to worry when it goes like, oh, there comes Man City.
The thing for me, I don't know if you guys can hear me because I can't hear you, Curtis. Can you hear me, Dagan? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, yep, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the thing that really concerns me about Manchester City is the ridiculous form that Erling Haaland's in. He is an absolute machine. Like I've I've gone on record to say, oh, Evan Ferguson, the second coming of Erling Haaland. He's going to be better than Erling Haaland. Obviously, they've been jokes and they've been very tongue-in-cheek. Erling Haaland is the most ridiculous footballer I've ever watched. And the way he took that quarterfinal by the scruff of the neck against Burnley, and I understand, yes, it's Man City versus Burnley, and the golfing quality is different, but it's still an amazing chance for Burnley to get to a semi-final as well as Man City. Erling Haaland took that game by the scruff of the neck, and he ruined their defenders. He absolutely destroyed them, and he can do that against anyone. He would happily make Lewis Dunk his little play toy. So that's what terrifies me about Man City.
He can try.
If Haaland got injured, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, we'll give him a good game. But facing Man City with Erling Haaland right now is an unbelievably scary prospect.
Haaland is a cyborg, and he's programmed to score goals. I've fully accepted this at this point. He is not human.
No, exactly that. Yeah. So Dagan, I'm just going to quickly cut away from our current season and our current situation, and I'm going to go back a few months, and I'm going to ask you about the man who must not be named. So when I think you know who I'm talking about, when he left the club, what was your outlook on that? Because you say when you became an Albion fan, you was impressed with his style of play and how adaptive he was with his tactics, etc. Did you fear then that maybe it was the wrong choice?
The new hire being the wrong choice?
No. So when because obviously you was impressed with how Brighton and Hove Albion play football. Obviously it's never a guaranteed thing that a new manager is going to come in and carry on the form. Was you sort of worried that maybe that would be the downfall of Brighton and maybe you made the wrong choice in supporting us?
There was a very, very short period of worry before I knew who. As soon as the Zerbi name came out and I started looking up videos of his teams playing, I had very little concern at all anymore because I just thought his style of play suited the players we have. And I'm not a lifelong soccer fan, football fan at all. But I've just tried to be a student of the game this year, and it was really clear to me sort of the aesthetic style of play was just sort of next leveling what we were already doing. And I think what we've seen is just, do we give the ball away sometimes trying to make like the perfect, beautiful pass? Yes. But we're also completing that perfect, beautiful pass to create an opportunity so much more consistently and more often because the players seem to have the freedom as things develop to make that play. And I feel like in the beginning of the year, I was like, shoot, someone make a pass, like make a play towards the goal. It just felt like it was just this beautiful sequence of passing, but there was just this careful undercurrent that felt like guys were afraid to make a mistake. And I just feel like that's completely gone. And to me, that's a big difference is everybody seems emboldened to try. And the only thing that will get you yanked is sort of sulking and not giving your best effort or making a sequence of errors consecutively. As you know, Purvis was sort of pulled from the cup game.
Yeah, exactly that. And I also want to sort of touch on so let's have a look at some individual players. Now when Roberto De Zerbi came in, he sort of put his arm around Solly March, a guy that was very much Marmite between Brighton fans.
I'm so happy you brought this up. I'm so really happy. I was going to talk
Love him
about
or hate him. So yeah, what was your perspective on Solly March before Roberto De Zerbi and Solly March after?
I can admit when I'm wrong, and I really felt like he was, if not singularly, one of maybe a couple of weak links in the starting lineup in the early part of the season. Because of that exact sort of behavior that I described, where it was like there's a chance to shoot and there's there's a fake and there's another move and there's yet another move. And then maybe there's a sort of half-hearted shot that felt like a beat too late. The decision was made. And that just seemed like it was perpetual. And then there was a chance he wasn't finishing. And again, confidence, I've been a coach, again, not in this sport, but I've been a coach my whole adult life. Confidence is everything. And it's clear to me that these guys just really believe. And, when you look at what Zerbi did with Berardi at Sassuolo, right? I mean, it was the same kind of almost instant transformation. And that's a player who's remained really successful after Zerbi, right? I mean, he just sort of unlocked him. And I think that could be true for Solly as well. And it's been really fun to see, right? Because it's just a guy who went from Civic sort of, sad sack almost, right? Like, oh, he's been around forever and he's just not quite Premier League quality, but he's our guy, so we're going to stand behind him. And, now what everybody was saying they saw under the surface is there. So, I mean, he is sort of the shining example of what I think Zerbi's done for all of the guys to some degree, but I think he was the one who was struggling the most before Zerbi, and now, is a consistent threat. So, egg on my face because I thought he was the weak link. The Charlton, penalty miss, was sort of the moment, right? That seemed like, oh my gosh, this poor guy, right? And I felt bad for him as a human being in that moment. And whatever happened, like I would love to have been a fly on the wall to know what did Zerbi say to him after that affirmed his belief and changed the course of his season. Because that seemed to be the moment where things turned for really maybe the whole club.
100%. And I think that's such an important thing because the amount of abuse that I saw towards Solly March that night was unreal. And what followed weeks after was just like, how can you be saying stuff that was being said against your own player? And especially a player that's so honest and given so much to the football club. I mean, let's not forget, he was one of the goal scorers in that famous game against Wigan that sent us up to the Premier League. So it's an unbelievable turnaround. And then obviously when he scored that screamer against Southampton on Boxing Day, I mean, you couldn't ask for more, could you? And I was at the Charlton game. I was literally dying on my feet. I had the most horrific flu, but I thought I'm going to go because I've missed football so much. And, it was the first game back after the World Cup. And I was like, yeah, I'll see a win, no problems. And halfway through the game, I was saying to my dad, "No, Dad, I've never seen a penalty shootout live. And I've got a feeling this is going to a penalty shootout." And it did. It did. So you can blame me. But yeah, that turning point for Solly March. Curtis, I don't think I've ever actually asked you about that turning point for Solly March. What was your views on Solly before Roberto De Zerbi? So, sort of the similar question that I gave to Dagan, really, before De Zerbi and after.
I've always thought of Solly as a bit of a workhorse, as someone who's always there in the peripheral. He just does his job, but he's very quiet about it. You reminded me of Dale Stevens, actually, in a sense, who's just retired. Thank you to Dale for what he did for the club, obviously. And yeah, the Charlton thing, the missed penalty and everything, I felt so sorry for him. So sorry for him and all those who missed their pens. But sometimes, it takes situations like that to really just build something up inside you and make you want to do better and kick on. And seemingly that's what happened. It lit a fire under him, and he's just been a freak of nature since then. He's been unstoppable. What a great human being he is as well. Every time I see and hear from him in interviews, he's just a great guy. He has a very clear ambition of what he wants at the club, and I was so happy to see him sign a new contract, things like that. So yeah, just really happy for him, and I'm glad that he's getting what he needs behind the scenes.
Yeah, 100%. So we've spoken a little bit about what we still have. Let's talk about what we've lost, because Brighton and Hove Albion have lost a lot since the departure of Graham Potter, even before that when we lost Kukurea and Bissouma. But still we continue to rise, and still we continue to be such an unbelievably well-run football club, and it's showing on the football pitch. Dagan, what do you think is the key to us still performing so unbelievably well, even though we've lost what people would argue are best assets. I'll put that in quotation marks.
I just think it's scouting and preparation and believing in the next man up, right? I mean, and what seems apparent to me at this point is that we're not letting anyone go until we feel confident that there is a replacement. I think that's, again, I don't know a lot, but it felt to me that Caicedo was completely irreplaceable, that there was no one ready-made to step into that role. And so, I mean, more than anyone else, was like, we can't say we're taking Europe seriously and let him go in January. And we didn't, right? And, I think maybe if an offer like that came in on a different player that we felt like, yeah, there's somebody waiting in the wings, we maybe make that move because we have the belief in who's behind them. But I think at this point, at that role, and again, new opinion, I feel like that center, like defensive midfielder who can also distribute is like the most valuable player on the pitch in any given game. Because they're the one person that can keep things from being difficult on your defenders and then subsequently your keeper. And he does that so often. He just wins the ball in a staggeringly easy way sometimes when it looks like he's coming from a terrible position. And it's just an incredible talent to watch. To me, it's the scouting network. It's Bloom, it's Barber. And now, like Zerbi instilling that confidence in the players when they enter the game, and even those substitutes look even more ready and fired up, and like there's a confidence in them to go and to create, and again make some mistakes, which we've seen. But that's a powerful learning tool as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen players like Facundo Buonanotte come in. We've seen Yasin Ayari come in against Grimsby, and I get it, it's against Grimsby, but you still have to perform with what's in front of you, and he really impressed me.
And he scored an overhead kick, though. We nearly
exactly. If he connected with that, I was right behind that, and he was like this far away. For the audio listeners, that's about an inch from connecting, and that would have been one introduction in front of the North Stand. I'm going to try that.
That was near his first touch, wasn't it?
Yeah,
right?
I think it would have been his first touch. Which and then not only did he miss that, and then afterwards he continued to prove exactly what he can do. He's so energetic all the way across the pitch. He was going left to right, almost like a little bit what Pascal Gross does when he's given that role sort of further up the pitch. You just see him drift. Wherever he's needed, he's going to be there every single time. And people joke about Pascal Gross. Oh, he's not fast enough. It's up here. His intelligence, it's just ridiculous. And it's what we seem to recruit at the moment. It's just unbelievably switched on, intelligent players. And that's all you need. Like, if you've got players that are going to buy in and learn and just do everything they can to, get into a manager's way of playing, then you're going to have an unbelievably successful team. We've got Mitoma, who's got a master's degree in dribbling. Like, what other Premier League team can say they've got a player that's literally a doctor of dribbling? It's just nuts. And of course, Mitoma scored. We're recording this on the 28th of March. Matoma scored for Japan today, and Purvis Estupiñán from the spot for Ecuador, which is fantastic to see. North Stand chat tweeted saying, "Do we have a new penalty taker?" I'm happy with Alexis, to be honest. I don't know what you guys think, but if we've got that backup, then fantastic. I'll take that.
It's always good to have other options, though, isn't it? Especially for like penalty shootouts and the like. So.
Yeah, there might be one of those at Wembley Stadium in months to come. So let's not hold our breath on that. Let's talk about our World Cup winner then, Dagan, because it was a remarkable story. He signed a new deal before he went away to the World Cup. Masterstroke from the club, by the way. Absolutely unreal business. And he's gone and played with, in my opinion anyway, the greatest of all time and won a World Cup with him. What's your opinion on Alexis Mac Allister? Because he was a bit of a slow burner to start with Brighton fans, I believe. But this season, he's just come into his own.
he has a fighting spirit, and that was the thing that jumped out to me. Like if there's a little bit of tension on the pitch between our squad and the opponents, he's usually going to be the first guy in the mix. And you need that guy. He's just got a little bit of an edge to him. Seems fiercely competitive. I think he's had some incredible moments. I think the whole season might be remembered differently if that one blast of a shot that might have been the goal of the year in the entire Premier League had not been discounted.
You would have had a hat trick in that game if that one went in, right? Am I thinking about the same game?
Yeah, Leicester, that was the most ridiculous strike of a football I've ever seen in my life.
Outstanding.
I was,
and then he scored the free kick later as well, which was man.
Again, I was behind that strike, and there was a guy to the side of me. He kept recording Mac Allister's shots, and they kept missing. And then he got that one on video, and I was like, mate, I really hope you got that. And then it was disallowed. But that was the cleanest strike of a football I've ever seen in my life.
One thing I will say, I like him further back. I like Gross, I think, in the 10 role more than I like Mac Allister in the 10 role. And that's not a strike against Mac Allister. I just feel like he gets fewer touches in the 10 role than he does when he's further back. And so I'd like to see him on the ball and creating, because I think he makes really good decisions when he has space. Things kind of crowd up in that final third, and he has a little bit less room to operate. I think he can't maybe as easily choose his spots. As a person,
100%.
I was a basketball point guard, and sometimes size and vision plays a factor there. I don't know if that's as big a factor in soccer or not, but when things get congested, it can be hard to see. I know Gross is a little taller, and again, Gross just seems to have that sixth sense of where everyone is all the time and where all the defenders are, and can make just one simple little feint and create space and then make that perfect cross. And Mac Allister's just had a tough time finishing for some stretches, but not from the spot. Let's hope that continues. Knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're absolutely spot on with that, by the way. I love Mac Allister from a deeper role, and I feel like it gives him a wider aspect to the game, and he can read a game perfectly. I mean, we saw him in multiple positions at the World Cup with Argentina. Given that sort of leeway and license to be so free in a team where Lionel Messi's playing in, when Lionel Messi would be doing that role normally, but it was a Mac Allister linking up that play constantly at the World Cup. And I feel like maybe he's come back from the World Cup, and Zerbi has sort of asked him, what role do you want to play? I don't know if the World Cup trophy's given him this sort of hero status that he's consulted as to what might be the best way to go forwards. And he's probably saying, yeah, I want to be a little bit more forward because I want to get more goals. But I do think he would benefit from, again, playing alongside Moises Caicedo, who can break up the play. Caicedo draws defenders to him. That is like a magnet to him, but he will just spin out from them and still have the ball somehow. And it'll open up that space for Mac Allister. And in a 10-yard circle of space, that's where Mac Allister is the most dangerous, because he can just pick a pass. He can see exactly where he needs to go, and it's game over for the opposition. Sorry, Dagan, you were going to say?
I was just going to say he seems especially adept at sort of basketball parlance, like a give and go type play where he sees that pass and then sees the space he can fill. And again, for that more advanced role, there's less of that space to move into. So I don't know. Just again,
honestly,
perspective, but
it's spot on though, because with basketball, it's very much like quick pace. You need to go there, I need to go there, like split-second decisions. And it is that in football as well. And as you say, if he's crowded out by a centre defensive midfielder and two centre-backs all at the same time, he's not going to have that chance to read the game as well as he does further back. So I think you're spot on with that. Curtis, do you feel like Mac Allister is better in that deeper role, or are you happy seeing him where he's playing at the moment?
I mean, to echo a lot of what you both were saying, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think I do agree that he's clearly one. I also, oh,
Couldn't hear you there, Curtis.
can you
Just,
hear me
just.
now?
Yep. You're all good.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened there. I think I agree with a lot of what you guys were saying. Essentially, I think yeah, definitely deeper. I think that suits him more. I do feel like when he came back, his aim was to get more goals. I sort of feel. I mean, I've sort of come to terms with the fact we might lose him in the summer. And I sort of feel like that's one of the reasons why he might want to sort of impress a bit more, put himself in that shop window sort of thing. And I'm I would rather he didn't go, obviously, but he's been so respectful of us and has so many good words for us, and you always hear that he's wanting to be respectful to the club, and he owes a lot to the owners and management and things like that. I wish him a lot of luck in the future, essentially, but we'll just have to see how things go.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Dagan, go on, mate.
I kind of had a question I were to pose to you on sort of that subject, as you guys obviously know a lot more than I do. Do you think Europa League or Champions League spot would be more likely to lead some of those top players who are being linked to the big six teams to stay, and us to pay for them to stay potentially?
Good question.
I think Champions League, yes, absolutely, 100%. Mac Allister stays, Caicedo stays, and we attract some players that we never thought we would attract, in my opinion. Europa League, I would be a little bit more like maybe we keep one of them. Europa Conference, I don't think we keep either. But it'll be super interesting to see because I'm going to go out and say I don't think Mac Allister, since coming back from the World Cup, since the Middlesbrough game, has been anywhere near what we should expect from him. And I think that is because he's playing in that more advanced role, as you pointed out, Dagan. And I think that's because he's not having that time to shine, and he's missing chances left, right, and centre. And especially at the Palace away game, I really feel like he should have put that game to bed by himself. He should have probably had about 5 goals. So I hope for Alexis's sake that he does impress towards the end of the season. And like, don't get me wrong, this isn't me sitting here saying Alexis Mac Allister is crap. I absolutely adore that man, and I think he's such a wonderful footballer. But I do expect more from him, and I think any teams looking at him would expect more from him as well. So he has it all to do for his future. He has it all to do for Brighton Hove Albion's future. And if his last act is to get us a European spot, whether that be Europa Conference, Europa League, or Champions League, then he will leave with my highest regard, my highest congratulations. And because as a Brighton fan sat here talking about Europe, still to this day baffles me. It still to this day baffles me that we're talking about Brighton Hove Albion in the Premier League. Like, I recorded a football shirt video today, which is coming out soon. And on one of my shirts, it's got the Premier League badge on it. And I looked at it, and I had a moment, and I was like, this still blows my mind. I'm looking at a Premier League badge on a Brighton and Hove Albion shirt with Adam Lallana on the back of it. And it's like, I never, not in a million years, would have thought Adam Lallana, Danny Welbeck, a World Cup winner. Not Danny Welbeck. Danny Welbeck's not a World Cup winner, but Alexis Mac Allister.
I agree.
It blows my mind.
I mean, there's several times where I feel like sometimes we don't step back and smell the roses. Sometimes, like where we are, what we're achieving, like how far we've come to get to where we are, and like occasionally I'll be like, Adam Lallana is in my team. You know, Danny Welbeck is in my, because I hear a lot of like negative stuff like, oh, Danny Welbeck's too slow and blah 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 blah, all this stuff, and it's like we've got Danny Welbeck in our team. You know, he was like a huge player at one point, and Adam Lallana's fantastic, and we always hear that we're getting potential links with all these amazing players and who play around the world, and it's and you hear all this praise for, as I say, the club and the management and things like that, and it's incredible. You know, as you said, it still takes a lot for me to believe these things, especially because recently I've been watching a lot of like, like documentaries about Brighton. You know, from the Goldstone ground to where we are now and that sort of thing, and it's really really emotional. You know, sometimes really emotional, and like especially with this FA Cup situation. You know, because it mirrors a lot from the past, and it's just mind-blowing sometimes just to step back and look at it from the outside is madness.
I couldn't believe how many parallels there are this season to reaching the latter stages of the FA Cup. Now, I understand it's a semi-final that we're playing Manchester United, but 40 years ago we played Manchester United in our first ever FA Cup final. I believe we beat Liverpool on the way. I believe there was also a Sheffield club in these latter stages, and it's exactly 40 years on. I just wonder whether history is edging us. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are a believer in faith or a believer in things happen for a reason or that fancy stuff, but I really think that something special is brewing. And it's going to be emotional one way or the other, because
I think
if
we
we
make
don't
our
make
own
Europe,
luck.
I'll cry.
I think ultimately we make our own luck. So depending on what we can get out of the boys on the day, is how it turns out. I mean, I'm always confident. I'm always confident, because I have to be, because I want us to do as best as we can every single time. So that's my mindset all the time. As I said, I'm never afraid until I have to be. So when it comes to the game, I'm going to be internally crying, I would imagine. But as it stands right now, I'm very, very confident that we can progress in the tournament.
Indeed. Well, we have some wonderful games coming up. We have some incredible potentials coming up. And Dagan, it's been amazing talking to you. I've got one question. I said I was going to do a quiz, but I've got one quiz question. It's a nice, easy one for you, I hope. Now, Curtis, this is also goes out to you as well if you want to get involved. Now, Brighton Hove Albion's top goal scorers in the Premier League are Glenn Murray and Neil Maupay, both on 26 goals. Who is the next player in line to break that record?
So this is not really a quiz. This is
Is it it's not Pascal Gross, is it?
It is our mighty German Pascal Gross. I think he's on 24 goals. So he's got 3 goals to go to break that record in the Premier League.
wow.
And I think he's got something mental like 50 goal involvements for us.
Wow.
So that's goals and assists. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, guys. But I think it's near that number. So for me, if Pascal Gross is to break that record for us, in my opinion, he's already a legend, but it cements that legend status for me. So yeah, I just love that it's him next in line to break that. Our mighty German, who so many people wrote off, including one of our own on this podcast. Aaron, I'm talking to you, buddy. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. But as I say, we've got some unbelievable games coming up, unbelievable potentials coming up. Whether we make a FA Cup final, whether we make Europe, who knows? But all I know for now is that Brighton Hove Albion are absolutely flying, and we're going to enjoy it whilst we can. Dagan, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I love your positivity. I love how you found our club, and I just absolutely adore talking to people from across the pond, and you are always welcome on this podcast. And if you come to England, there is probably 6 or 7 pints waiting for you at the Amex bar.
I've already made him aware that I'm buying him a pint when he comes to the Amex. So.
Well, you've got one from me. I'm sure Tom, Dan, Chloe, Aaron, Toby will all follow suit. If I missed anyone there, I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's amazing. So
you guys have been too kind. I'm really grateful to be on. I love to come back. It's really fun to talk about. Listen to you guys all the time, and some of the other great pods as well. But it's just an honor to be here.
We'll maybe get you on towards the end of the season to discuss how things went.
Yeah, 100%. We normally do an end of the season. Well, I say normally. We did our first end of the season quiz last season. I want to do another one because it was unbelievably fun. We did a live stream. Loads of people got involved. And I think there's a big thing going on. I don't want to speculate because I don't know how far down the line it is, but I think there's a big thing going on where like all of the Brighton podcasts are going to like get involved in something. So that might be something to keep an eye out. But we do want to do our own thing, Dagan. So you're always welcome on. As I say, we'll get you on towards the end of the season, see how things go, and we'll see how much egg we've got on our face. So talking about Europe and then we don't make it. But that's just me. But as I say, I'm going to close the episode here, guys. Like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. Follow that man on TikTok. Albion Obsessed on TikTok. Curtis is doing great work there.
I make a load of really terrible videos over there, so come and watch those. But we're really, really pushing over there. I'm really proud of the content that we're putting out. I do sort of like after match quick episodes and just to sort of discuss. So go over there, have a conversation with us, and help us keep pushing for our goals. So,
and we've got lots and lots of content planned for our Wembley trip, and we've got some really special things planned. So, and possibly a hot dog eating contest. Who knows? But yeah, I'll leave you with that, guys, and we'll see you very soon. Take care now, and I'll use Tom's phrase: wherever you are, whenever you are, have a great day. Bye-bye.